Hello guys, welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to learn how to test IBM MQ, ActiveMQ, and RabbitMQ using test containers. Okay, let us start with IBM MQ. First, let me show you what are the dependencies we need. For test containers, of course, we need this. Let me close this. Let me remove first unnecessary stuff here. All right. So basically, for we need test containers library, which is this one, Spring Boot test containers. Then we also need JUnit Jupyter. Yeah, for IBM MQ, that is enough. Test containers, Spring Boot test containers, JUnit Jupyter test containers, and of course since we're going to use JUnit, of course we need also this Spring Boot starter rest. I'm sorry, Spring Boot starter test library. The rest, of course, since this is this is Camel, we don't need this. This is used in other module of my, but in this demo we're not going, it's not the scope actually of our demo. So yeah, basically what we need is only library for IBM MQ, which is this one. Yeah, this one. I think we also need this Jackson data bind, for otherwise this IBM MQ will not work. And of course, since this is a web application, so we also need this. But if we only, but for IBM MQ, if we want to work on IBM MQ, this is the only dependency we need. MQ, JMS, Spring Boot starter, Jackson data bind. Okay, and since we're going to use test containers, so we also need this Spring Boot test containers and JUnit Jupyter, right? So that's it. That's for the dependency. Then let me go to our test class. Of course, we were going to use Spring Boot test, and for IBM MQ, we can use generic container. All right. Okay. So for basically what we're going to do, we're going to pull the image for IBM MQ container. Right, we're going to create an instance of IBM MQ. All right, after creating an instance of IBM MQ using a generic container, of course we are going to use the container details from that object, with like the host, the port, basically port and the host, okay, from our IBM MQ container, which is this one. All right, so these are the relevant parameters. Take note of this. IBM MQ, this is the image, Docker image. IBM MQ, this is the version, right? And default queue manager, which is QM1, and license, which is accept. Okay, So we can just simply copy and paste this. We don't need to change any value in the parameters. Okay, then after creating a IBM MQ container, again, as I said, we're going to use the server or the container details from that object, which is the host and the port. Okay, so as you can see here, I concatenate the host and the port using this format. Okay, but again, before we can get the host or the port from that container, we need to start the container. That's why we call this. Okay, then after we get all the container details, we can override the IBM MQ connection name configuration. This is normally we configure in our application properties, right? But then again, since we're using test container, so we're going to override that. Normally this is pointing to actual environment like UAT environment or production environment, but then again, since we're going to use test container, so we're going to override that. Okay, so once the configuration is done, we can use our JMS template API to send message. So let me verify we can send the message. By the way, this JMS template is provided by our IBM MQ library. This one. Sorry, this is provided by Spring Framework. Okay, Spring Boot Framework. Okay, so I think this is an interface, but then the implementation is a class. Anyway, but I think the end this is just a template, but I think under the hood is still provided by this library. Let me check. Oh yeah, this IBM MQ is part of Spring Boot Starter. That's why. Anyway, so we can use that library using this JMS template. Let me try to send a message and verify if we can receive it using the test container. Okay, so let me put some breakpoint here and verify. This is the message that we're going to send to our test container, IBM MQ test container, right? And after sending this using the JMS template API, we're going to verify it using this receive and convert. Okay, then the message we should get should be the same with this. All right, so let me verify. Okay, it's running now. Let me check the log while it's running. Okay, so here we're going to send the hello world message. As you can see, I put a slip here because I gave some time for the test container to receive the message. Okay, then before we retrieve it from the container, that's using this command. Okay, so now let me execute this line to receive the message from the IBM MQ container. Okay, so this is the message, which is hello world, right? So it's equal to what we sent here. So I think it's successful. Let me resume. Yeah, basically it's successful already because this is what we retrieve from the IBM MQ container, hello world, this is the exact message we sent here using this command. Okay, so that's it for IBM MQ. So it's passed already. Let me proceed to next one, which is ActiveMQ. ActiveMQ. Let me close the IBM MQ since we're done already. For ActiveMQ, these are the dependency that we need. Again, we ActiveMQ, we need the, of course, the ActiveMQ dependency. This is this one, Spring Boot start the ActiveMQ. Okay, of course, because this is the web application, that's why we have this, but this is not required for ActiveMQ. Then unit tests, of course, this is required because we're using unit tests, Spring Boot starter tests. Then test containers, we're going to use test containers, that's why we use this test containers. All right, then because we're going to use test containers in our JUnit, of course, we need this JUnit dash Jupyter also. And last but not the least is the ActiveMQ for test containers. Okay, yeah, I think that's it for the dependency. So let's go to our test class. For test class, we're going to use, instead of generic container, we're going to use ActiveMQ container, which is provided by our library, this one, ActiveMQ test containers. All right, so yeah, so it's the same thing. As you can see, we use the same annotation, Spring Boot tests and as test containers. Then same, we use JMS template. I think it's the same package. Yeah, it's the same. But then again, we are, instead of using generic container, we're going to use ActiveMQ container. And this is the message, the Docker image that we're going to pull. Okay, ActiveMQ Classic, this is the version, the user and password parameters. Then again, we override, or yeah, basically we override the configuration which is normally pointing to our production or UAT environment. We were going to override them with the details from our test containers. This one, active container. That's the reason why we create this ActiveMQ container, because we're going to use their details to override our ActiveMQ configuration, which is normally, as I said, normally pointing to our actual environment. Okay, so right, so again, before we can get these details from the ActiveMQ, like the URL and all details basically from ActiveMQ container, we have to start the container. That's why I have this. Okay, then you can, this line, you don't, even though you start this, these are not required. Automatically it will stop and close after once your test cases are executed or finished. Okay, once the execution is done, then automatically the test container will stop and close. Okay, all right, so the same thing, let me clear first the other breakpoints. We only want to put a break here and here. All right, so yeah, I think that is, let me verify, let me run this. So again, we're going to set a dummy message which is hello world ActiveMQ using the JMS template. So we send. After sending, we pause a bit to give some time for the test container to receive the message, and then after that we're going to use this API to retrieve the message from the container. Okay, so as you can see, we're going to use the same destination name. Okay, all right, so let me send the message. All right, then after sending the message, let me retrieve. All right, so this is the message from our returned by our API. Oh, we cannot see here the message. I think it's, anyway, let's get it. I think it's not cannot see here, but then again we can retrieve it from the body. Okay, so this is the message object. Okay, we call the get body from the message object and see if we can retrieve the exact message. Oh yeah, so this is the message we send. Yeah, hello world ActiveMQ. It's the same with this, right? So it's successful. So we can send and receive the message. All right. So that's it for ActiveMQ. So let's proceed to our um, RabbitMQ. RabbitMQ. All right. Let me close first the ActiveMQ since we're done already. So for RabbitMQ is the same thing, only the library will change and the syntax basically, but the logic is the concept is just the same. So instead, for RabbitMQ, we are going to use this dependency, Spring Boot Starter AMQP. Okay, for RabbitMQ. Of course, again, since it's a web application, we use this, but it's not required for RabbitMQ. Then we're using JUnit, that's why we're going to use Spring Boot Starter Test. Then this one actually is not required, but just leave it alone there. Then Testcontainers, of course, is required because we're going to use Testcontainers, and also this JUnit and JUnit dash Jupyter for Testcontainers, right? We also use that. We need that. It's required actually for our Testcontainer to work with JUnit. Okay, and last but not the least is the RabbitMQ Testcontainer. Okay, so here for RabbitMQ we're going to use RabbitMQ container. As you can see in IBM MQ, we use generic container, right? But for what do you call this? For IBM MQ, we use generic container. Then for ActiveMQ, we use the ActiveMQ container. Then for RabbitMQ, we're going to use RabbitMQ container. Okay. So again, same thing. You create the instance of the container. For RabbitMQ is called RabbitMQ container. Then we put the name of the Docker image, which is RabbitMQ version 3. Then after creating the container instance, we use the details from that test container, which is the host, port, username, and password, and override the RabbitMQ configuration. This, as I said, this is normally pointing to our actual environment, but since we're going to use test containers, so we are going to override them. All right. So after we create the test container and override the necessary configuration, we can implement this interface, right? That's why we in our test class we are going to implement this Rabbit test container. Okay, implement this one. Implement Rabbit test container. So you can. This is a bit different approach, but it's the same thing as the previous test class. It's just I created an interface here to hide these details from our test class. So in our test class, you cannot see such details, right? Because it's inside this Rabbit test container interface. So the same thing, instead of using a JMS template, we're going to use Rabbit template. This Rabbit template is provided by the Rabbit MQ library. This one, the one I showed earlier. This one, this Spring Boot Starter AMQP, right? So yeah, so we can use that Rabbit template to send message. Let me verify if we can send and receive the message. Let me clear other breakpoint first. So let me put a break here for sending message and receiving message. Same thing. So after sending the message, we send this dummy message. Then we pause 1 for 1 second to give some time for the container to receive the message. Then after that, after 1 second, we try to receive the message from that container. So okay, using this queue name. Okay. So as you can see, these are the default. I did not create. Normally we use some tool to create the queue name, right? But this is the default in our container. If you use this container, test container, these are default. I did not create this. This is the default queue name, default exchange name. You can use this. Okay. So here for this testing, we only change the message that we're going to test. We use the default queue name, okay, and exchange name. All right. So let me verify if we can send the message to the default queue name. All right. So it's running. It's a bit slow. Actually, the first time you run the test class, for if you are using test container, the first time is always the slowest. Second time around, it will be much faster because it's already downloaded in our Docker. Okay. All right. So let's send it. All right. So we send it already. So we expect to receive this message. Hello world, RabbitMQ. Let me retrieve it. Oh, it's an object. Okay, let me inside this there is a method called body, gateway body. So we extract the message from this object, MSG object. Okay, so the actual message is this. All right, so hello world RabbitMQ. It's the same thing, right, from what we sent, which is this one. So it's successful. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, until next time, have a good one.